Here we are back tracking another very active season of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, where we still have a couple storms. Even though it's been a little bit of a quiet September so far, we're tracking quite a bit of disturbances. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. I'll show you all the possibilities for storms to come through the Caribbean and potential impacts to the United States and Atlantic Canada coming next 2 weeks. So be sure to watch till the end so that you are informed on all those possible threats and possible development in the coming days. We're going to start this video by talking about a couple of remnants. So these are the remnants of Mindy right here, which are coming through they're not even tropical storms. They're just showers and thunderstorm. The storm obviously went through and made landfall and is now moving through the open Atlantic. So that will be a threat. What is a threat, though, is what once was a major Hurricane Larry here. And surprisingly, it is still holding as a tropical cyclone. As you can see, it is really close to making that landfall in Canada, and it is expected to do so as a major hurricane. So that does not happen, or not a major hurricane, as still a tropical hurricane, and that does not happen very often. We usually see them, we usually see them start to become post-tropical after this general line right here. By the time it crosses this line, or at least this latitude, they do start to become post-tropical. And really, by the time they get to Canada, they're very, very rarely still a fully tropical cyclone, not even subtropical. So this is what we are seeing with Larry, where we have this hurricane with winds of 85 miles per hour based on last year's analysis, getting to Atlantic Canada with winds likely around 80 to 70 miles per hour, and still being a hurricane, fully tropical hurricane at this point. Obviously, waters are getting cooler, but it is enough for now to sustain this being a hurricane and tropical. Of course, we then will be looking at our disturbance in the Gulf and Caribbean area, which is this tropical wave right here that you can see right near the Yucatan. You got convection on both sides here. So we'll be taking a look at this area. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at this little area of spin, which could be potentially end up developing further on, as well as big tropical wave here, which is emerging off the coast and likely to be moving, potentially a short-lived tropical cyclone as it moves in the open Atlantic. Starting off, here's the National Hurricane Center, and you can see again all those disturbances here. And as we look in the next 5 days outlook, you can see that both of our disturbances here, not an invest yet, both have a high chance of forming. The first one is the northern part of tropical wave, which is 70% of forming, as there's good environmental conditions for this to form in the Gulf. This storm will likely cross over here and make landfall in Texas if it is, of course, a tropical cyclone. And then our second disturbance here also has a 70%, I believe. Yes, and it has a little bit of a higher chance in the next 2 days, but that's normal as it is just emerging. And for now, it looks like that storm will likely be moving through the Atlantic. Still unsure if this storm will be potentially bringing impacts to the United States down the road, or if it will curve out like Larry. We'll have to look at the high pressure system in just a moment. But we know for sure it's going to be moving in this general direction of the main dominant region. Then whether it curves out and follow Larry's or goes a little bit more straight towards the United States is still a question. But impact still on the lookout for this general area as we move in the next couple of days for a storm to come through. Again, if it does survive till then. Here's a close-up satellite loop of Larry, and you can see it still really looks pretty good here. You've got that low-level center right here, really spinning strong, I guess you could say. Some cloud top still producing showers and thunderstorms spreading into Canada already. Again, landfall expected to be somewhere tomorrow in this general area as it moves through, still blowing up convection over the center, which is really surprising at this point, and got some nice banding to it. So this is continuing to hold and maintain its intensity as a bona fide tropical cyclone. Alrighty, let's start off by looking at our disturbance in the Caribbean, which does look pretty good on satellite imagery. This is again that X mark, and it will be interacting with this already low-level surface system, which is pre-existing here. You can see that rotation currently happening in the Gulf, and so it will be interacting with this as it moves through this trough/low pressure system at this point. And you can see quite a bit of convection. And if you look at the rotation, it is really a wave axis. It goes pretty much like this. You've got that low level center right here of this kind of non-tropical system, and then you've got that wave axis right here, and so that gives us, that wave axis here, and kind of connects with this down here, which also has a chance to develop, and so we have uh, this bigger area of wave axis that is partially connected, and so that northern part of it does have that chance to develop, as well as this part of it in the Eastern Pacific. As we move on to the GFS model, looking at all these systems, again, quite a bit of activity going on here in the Atlantic this afternoon. Let's first take a look at, again, those systems. Just take a wide angle. Let's plot our system. So again, we do have Larry here. You can quite clearly see it just right around here. Remnants of Mindy, tropical wave, tropical wave. Alrighty, as we get in the next 2 days, we do have to take into account that there's a lot of dry air in this northern area, as well as around right here. So it will have a little bit of trouble to develop at the beginning with all this dry air here. And at this point here, you can see, we're first going to focus on here. You can see we do end up getting a low pressure system, likely not a lot of convection. And so it does end up staying maybe a tropical depression or tropical storm before dissipating. And you can see moving northward, likely out of sea, and so that does dissipate out on this particular model, staying very weak tropical depression to tropical storm status. On the other hand, here you can see here also staying fairly weak is our Gulf system. Again, at this point in the next 24 hours, it is still interacting with that Eastern Pacific system. It's being really connected, and like happens with the GFS usually tends to favor Eastern Pacific system. So we always see that Eastern Pacific system develop while the Atlantic one doesn't really develop. But we do see a little low pressure here develop as it moves through, and then a stronger Eastern Pacific system as we'll usually see. And so that does dissipate out as maybe a weak tropical storm to tropical depression. Now, what we need to talk about is the possibility of a next tropical storm coming from the main development region in the coming days as well. And you can see that storm here depicted by the GFS coming through right here, and also being very weak as they move through and dissipating rather quickly. And lastly, a lot of models are also picking up on this potential Eastern Pacific system, which could become a short-lived tropical storm. So a lot of short-lived system. Conditions aren't great. We have a lot of dry air right here. And overall, not extremely favorable conditions for this September. And so those GFS models aren't depicting any extremely strong systems from this. We can take a quick look at the CMC for another view on things, and you'll be able to notice that the CMC usually depicts a little bit of a stronger storm, and with this one, it also has a very weak system. And that next tropical wave also being very weak on this particular model as well. Again, this is only one model run, as I usually say, but you can see both of these storms being very weak. Now, the CMC does show two other storms potentially forming in the main development region, so we'll have to take a close eye on this, as well as still this being fairly weak as this move through. So what can we expect from this? We can expect 2 weak tropical storms at this point. This is what the models are looking at. Things could change, but at this point, we're looking at 2 weak tropical storms moving in this general area, and potentially a tropical storm or tropical depression impact moving into Texas. Things could change, but that is what the models are depicting right now. I would say that the Gulf system does have a chance of being a little bit stronger, but with the mainland region, with all that dry air and Saharan dust in the northern mainland region, I don't see it becoming very strong because we have this high pressure up here, and so because of that, it really doesn't have another choice than going a little bit north into that dry air. And so this is why I don't see this being particularly strong. I'll have another update in the coming days. Thanks for